Good evening, everyone. We're getting ready to start. And proceed. Thank you. You may be seated. On behalf of the University of Belize Prize for Investigative Journalism, we welcome you on this World Press Freedom Day. This is the third awards ceremony for the prize. We're honoring outstanding journalism that was published or aired between January 1st and December 31st, 2024. The University of Belize Prize for Investigative Journalism seeks to reward courageous and dedicated journalists who watch, chronicle, reveal, and hold to account the people and forces that work against equity, transparency, civility, and good governance in Belize. The prize was designed to show that journalists are vital in any democracy. Their collective role in chronicling the life and times of a nation is crucial to holding those with power and influence accountable and amplifying the voices of the voiceless. This prize began as the Belize Prize for Investigative Journalism with the first honorees in 2023, when 7 News earned the inaugural prize of $10,000. In 2024, the prize joined forces with the University of Belize to become the University of Belize Prize for Investigative Journalism. The prize expanded in order to recognize 2 additional entries, offering each finalist a prize of $5,000. In this, the 3rd year, we're again offering the top award of $10,000 and 2 finalist awards of $5,000 each. While this prize has always been open to entries from all media platforms, this is the first year that we received entries representing Belizean newspapers. So, we'd like to recognize journalists from Amandala and the San Pedro Sun for their entries. Keep them coming. At this juncture, I'd like to invite the president of the University of Belize, Dr. Vincent Palacio, for his introductory remarks. Please give him a round of applause.
Thank you very much, William, our Master of Ceremonies. I'd like to welcome you all to this event on the World Free Press Day that we are celebrating our journalists here in Belize. Tonight, we gather not just to hand out awards, but to recognize something essential to our democracy, the power of truth. The Belize Prize for Investigative Journalism honors journalists who go deeper, who ask the difficult questions, and stay with the story no matter how uncomfortable it feels. Investigative journalism is a public service. It demands discipline, integrity, and courage. As journalist Christiane Amanpour once said, "Truth, not trends, defines our purpose. Journalism is not a popularity contest. It is a public service." And long before our modern institutions were formed, the Maya people had a word for this kind of truth. They called it mentanil, a concept rooted not only in speaking truth, but in making it real through action and integrity. It is a word from Yucatec Maya, one of our region's ancestral languages, and one we were honored to offer as a course at our university, the Regional Language Center. I believe this worldview, this way of seeing truth, not simply as something we speak, but something we live, is deeply woven into us as Belizeans. Even when we don't say it aloud, we feel it. It shows in our sense of fairness, our resistance to injustice, and our instinct to stand up when something is wrong. It's a quiet strength passed down through generations, and perhaps it lives in us at a subconscious level. Journalism, at its best, gives it voice. From the muckrakers of the past to the journalists who exposed the Watergate scandal and the global collaborations of today that shine a light on corruption, investigative journalism has always stood at the intersection of justice and truth. Here in Belize, we are writing our own chapter in that legacy. I read a piece just now from Channel 5 describing journalism today on this press-free day. And it didn't give a lot of positive reviews, the pressure that the journalists are experiencing. But still, we are contributing. The University of Belize is honored to serve as the home of this prize. Thanks to the vision of Mr. Godfrey Smith, the chairman of our Board of Trustees, and Ms. Holly Edgell, and to the support of our partners, some of you here and others not here. To our keynote speaker, Mr. Evan Perez, and to our international panel of judges, thank you for sharing your time and expertise with us. And to the awardees, congratulations. Your reporting is a powerful reminder of why journalism matters. You help to hold power accountable, inform the public, and strengthen our democracy. At the University of Belize, we believe in the value of every voice, especially those that are often overlooked. Voices from our rural communities, our young people, our everyday citizens. The future of Belize depends on voices that are bold, informed, and heard. Let's make sure those voices have a space, the space that they need. I'd like to thank you for coming out, and may the spirit of fearless reporting and public service continue to guide us all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Palacio. Happy World Press Freedom Day. Those of you who are not journalists probably didn't know that this was a special day, but it is. I'm going to explain a little bit about how the prize works in the interest of transparency. But first, I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge our sponsors, the people who helped us be here today. Some of them preferred to stay behind the scenes, and the top prize donor of $10,000 is one of those people who wants to stay anonymous, but they have asked us to present it in the name of Ebenezer Barrow. So that is the honor that we are able to present that money tonight thanks to that donor. Other sponsors are the University of Belize and the Embassy of the Republic of China, Taiwan, and the Big Creek Group of companies. Today there was a certain event called the Kentucky Derby. I don't know if you've heard of it. There was a horse named Journalism in the running. Journalism didn't win, but I like to think, well, I can guarantee that there will be journalists here tonight who will win. So, and we like the underdog. As journalists, we always like the kind of the underdog. So I don't know if we've been comfortable if journalism had won. As Dr. Palacio said, journalism is not a popularity contest. In fact, its practitioners are often not even popular, to say the least. But I would love it if everyone in here who is a journalist would just stand up, even if you're not a part of the semifinalists. I'd love it if you would stand up so that we can honor you. Don't be shy. Thank you. Thank you very much. So at any rate, I wanted to share a little bit about going forward. We've already had some pledges toward the next year's prize, so that's wonderful. So we'll continue our efforts to ensure that the fourth institution of the prize, or the fourth iteration of the prize, happens. The ultimate objective is twofold. We want to recognize the media as an integral part of the nation's development and commitment to good governance, and we want to also develop a certificate course at the University of Belize. You may or may not know that Belize does not have a formal curriculum or major or minor in journalism, and our journalists are self-taught, trial and error, and they do it for passion and out of purpose, not for money, much to their spouses' dismay, maybe. But we hope that by bringing more professionalism into the industry of journalism, that can raise all boats in terms of skill, in terms of even compensation and respect from the community. So that's a really big goal, and I'm excited to be part of that. So with continued support, we'll be able to keep doing this this ceremony, which has gotten better and better every year. So that's very exciting. Okay, here's how the prize works. Entrants submit their work by January 31st. So for this year, the entrants submitted work that aired or was published between January 1st and December 31st, 2024. So all the work that is honored tonight was aired or published last year. So then everything was submitted online by January 31st. Each media house could enter up to 3 entries. So any given journalism organization had 3 opportunities, 3 separate entries they could enter. And some of them used all of their entries. The judges get and review the entries over the course of about 90 days, because they do it as volunteers and they have other jobs. We always have 3 international judges and 1 Belizean judge. And so this year, we'll get to meet one of the international judges who will join us by Zoom to say hi. The judging criteria. For the purposes of the contest, investigative journalism is defined this way. I should say within journalism, there are wide opinions of definitions of what investigative journalism is. So we decided on this definition. It exposes, reveals, or explains an issue in a way that has not been previously documented. The work includes more than one, human sources, meaning people who are interviewed on the record. The work demonstrates how the issues matter, affect Belizeans. It includes reference to data, public records, and other sources that can corroborate claims and assertions made by the writers and the interview subjects. And it demonstrates that the reporter or reporters have made every effort to contact and obtain responses from named persons in the work so that they have the opportunity to respond to claims and assertions. Journalists do this a lot as part of their process, and over the course of months, if you are the subject of a report, hopefully you're not, you might hear from the same journalist over the course of 6 months asking, would you like to comment? Would you like to comment? Would you like to comment? Most of the time, a lot of the time, even in the US where I work, people may send a statement, they may say no comment, or they may comment. So it helps to ask. Okay, so our judges, I don't know if our friend from the British Virgin Islands is ready on Zoom, but I'll say his name last. Here are our judges. Jacqueline Charles, she is the Caribbean correspondent for the Miami Herald. Ida Peralta, he's the international correspondent for the region, and he's based in Mexico City. He works for NPR. Kalila Reynolds, who many of you know, she's our Belizean judge. She's based in Jamaica. She's the creator and executive producer of Taking Stock. And Freeman Rogers is the editor of the British Virgin Islands Beacon and also an investigative journalist as well. I don't know if we have Freeman.
Hi, I'm here.
There he is.
Good evening, everybody.
Hi, how are you? Oh, we have other people. Wonderful. Nice to see you. How's it going there in the British Virgin Islands?
It's very rainy, but otherwise it's great. Thank you.
Well, we're recognizing the voluntary work that our judges have done, and I wonder if you'd like to say a few words overall about the entries and the opportunity to serve as a judge.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, and good evening to everybody. First of all, I was very honored to be asked, and it was a great honor, and it was very interesting to read all the stories. A lot of really strong work and varied work. And I wanted to say 2 things. I won't talk too long, but 2 things I wanted to bring up. Just for me personally, I work in the British Virgin Islands, and we're obviously a small island sort of place. So it was really interesting, and I was happy to see all the work that had to do with the oceans. And for me personally, we think that's one of the undercovered things in the region. The Caribbean journalists get tied up with politics and crime and all this, and the oceans go underreported. So it was great to see all of that good work being done. The second one, I just wanted to mention real quickly, just because I thought it was cool. was the News 5 investigations into the operations at Caribbean Blue Casino. And here in the BVI, I work at a newspaper, which is, it's a national newspaper for the BVI, but it's also a very local newspaper just because the BVI is so small. And I liked how that investigation showed curiosity. It was a very local, it started with a very local question, which was, why are all these golf carts clogging the streets? And then it went from there into I guess the reporter noticed a cash machine in the casino. And then it went from golf carts to casino to kind of a bigger story about, looking, kind of knocking on the door of a big casino story. And I thought that sort of natural curiosity was really interesting, sort of how local curiosity leads to these big stories. So those are the two things I wanted to highlight, but overall really cool stories, and I was really happy to read them. And I hope you'll keep up the good work. And I met some of you, and I hope to meet others of you in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day. Stay dry.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent. So a big round of applause for our judges, even though we only met one of them. And it is interesting. This year we had 11 entries, and I would say maybe a third of them had to do with the environment or climate or the sea. And I think that's a really important piece of investigative journalism that people don't often think of as investigative journalism, but anything that is that includes and affects a lot of people is probably ripe for probing by journalists. I like to think of the terms harm and scope. When I think about journalism, what is the harm that's happening that needs to be exposed? And the scope, how many people are affected by this? And sometimes the scope is huge, but the harm is minimal. It's, your lights went out for 2 minutes. Or sometimes the harm is so great, but the scope is limited. So there's not that many people affected, but those who are affected are really affected. And so this is some of the ways that we think about doing journalism as an investigative journalist. So I'm going to ask William to come back up, and we're going to introduce our keynote speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Holly. This year, for the first time, we are pleased to bring you a keynote speaker. Evan Perez is a CNN senior justice correspondent based in Washington, D.C. He reports on legal, crime, and national security issues for the Global News Network. He was born in Belize City, Belize. He grew up on the South Side, attending Holy Redeemer and St. John's College, before studying journalism at the University of South Florida, Tampa. Evan began his career in Miami as a reporter for the Associated Press. Later, Evan covered financial and corporate beats, and then justice and national security for the Wall Street Journal. He also spent months covering Hurricane Katrina and its impact in New Orleans. While at CNN, Perez, along with his colleagues, revealed that the intelligence community believed Russia had compromising information on then-President-elect Trump. When prosecutors filed criminal charges against the U.S. Senator Bob Menendez and the first charges against the leader of the attack on the U.S. diplomatic compound in Benghazi, Libya, Perez delivered the news first on CNN. His time at St. John's College sparked his interest in writing and journalism, inspired in part by Father Leo Weber, who spoke often about the importance of a free press to sustain a young democracy in Belize. Evan, welcome home to Belize.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the invitation and for letting me address this group. I think, like one of the earlier speakers, I was truly impressed with some of the work that I got to see. I got to read some of the finalists. and watch some of the pieces that were submitted by Channel 5, Channel 7, and Amandala. And so, I grew up, as you just mentioned, I grew up in Belize. I was born in Belize City. My family is from Sarteneja, which is up north in Corozal. And, my people, they came from all over, right? This is mine is like the story of Belize. People from Yucatan and Honduras and Jamaica all somehow ended up, in my family. And so for me, my story is a lot like the Belizean story. And so watching watching some of these pieces and reading some of the stories that were part of the submissions, just filled me with a lot of pride, because it just made me feel good to see the work that was being done to illuminate some of the things, some of the problems, some of the issues that are going on in Belize. Not only obviously the gang issue out in San Ignacio, but also the environmental issues that are a challenge in Belize and elsewhere. And it also gave me a lot of pride to see one of my classmates from St. John's, Jules Vasquez. I heard his voice and I recognized that voice from the time I was a little boy and when we were school kids at St. John's. So a tremendous amount of pride. And to echo the words of Dr. Palacio just now, obviously the press and the importance of investigative journalism in this time it has never been more important to do the work that you are doing and that we are doing all over the world. It's obviously very clear that we're living in very challenging times, not only in Belize, but also here in the United States. As Holly mentioned just earlier, today at the Kentucky Derby, journalism was the favored to win and did not win. A horse by the name of Sovereignty won. And just a few minutes ago, Pete Hegseth, who's the Secretary of Defense for the United States, who has been, let's just say, under the gun of journalism and investigative journalism over the last few weeks, and is barely hanging on to his job at the Pentagon, he gleefully tweeted that sovereignty won over journalism. So that gives you a sense. That gives you a sense of what we're dealing with, and sort of the people that trying to illuminate the truth and trying to serve the public, what we're up against. And so, what I want to talk to you a little bit about is just simply, a little bit about how I got here, and also just to try to maybe encourage more of the work that you are doing. Clearly, you're doing some great work already, and I do think that there are some dark clouds over us, and maybe it's right that journalism didn't win today because in the end we're not popular. We're not supposed to be popular. We're not supposed to be essentially in the winner's circle. Although I guess a few people in that room are going to be tonight, we are supposed to be trying to do our best to eliminate and help inform the public and help the public understand, how their government works, how the people who have power, how they are managing to keep that power, and also, how people who don't have power, how their lives are affected by the forces that control everything around them. And so I'm really, for me, my story is, a little bit about, as you were just mentioning, I started out in Belize, and I can remember one of my earliest things was, I read this story. I read a letter to the editor. I believe it was in Amandala. And I was teenager, and someone was complaining about some kind of what they said was a person posing as a doctor who was really, I guess he was performing homeopathic medicine. And this person, had an office over not far from the swing bridge. And I was, we were trying to run a little, I believe it was like a monthly newspaper at St. John's. And so I got interested. And so I went down to see if I could figure out, I tried to figure out what kind of regulation there might be. Is this doctor supposed to have a license? I was very curious about what this was. And so I went to this, knocked on the door of this guy. It turned out to be a recent Chinese immigrant. And I knocked on the door, and he didn't speak very good English. And he basically just ran away from me. And so I chased after him. I ran after him across the bridge. He went over, I'm pretty sure, I can't remember what street it was that he ended up in. And I ended up standing outside his house trying to get this guy to talk to me because I was just curious. I just wanted to know, why he was a doctor and what exactly he was doing and why he was treating people and why this person had written this letter complaining about being given treatment and essentially feeling like he ended up being worse than he was before. So that's sort of my early beginning experience of what I thought was trying to get to the bottom of some crazy thing or some mystery, and trying to figure out a way perhaps to do some kind of service to the public. It wasn't very good. There was not much to that, but it sort of gives you a sense of that big and small. You come from a place where you are trying to, inform, you're trying to help the public understand how things work, what is not working, what is working, and that's what we do. And so, at this time in the United States, that is still what we're trying to do. And I think, the high mark of investigative journalism was obviously the days of Watergate and how, two dogged journalists, pursued a story for, to the end, right? And had the key help of some very important sources who were able to point them in the direction of a corrupt president and a corrupt system that essentially had won an election. And what we're facing now is that all of the things, all of those institutions, all of those norms that were put in place after Watergate are all being chipped away. They're crumbling. They're getting rid of because, in part, because the American public, I guess, has decided that the system, the institutions that were put in place after Watergate aren't working for them anymore. And so that's the reason why Donald Trump won election in 2016. That's why Donald Trump won election just now in November. And so I think for journalists, we are faced with a couple of things, which is, a lot of the institutions, a lot of the things that really have helped sustain and have really set aside, set apart the way things work in the United States, the institutions of journalism. A lot of those things are being taken away. Just this past week, I believe on Thursday, the Attorney General published in the Federal Register new regulations that allow the Justice Department, which is the beat that I cover, allows them to subpoena reporters, for them to force reporters to provide testimony if need be, to secretly obtain our phone records. These are things that had been, these are rules that had been put in place during the previous administration. Well, they had been in place before, and they were formalized. They were trying to put them written down to make it more difficult to get rid of. And in one fell swoop, the new Attorney General has decided she is not going to abide by those and has written new rules, which really put all of us in a more precarious position. So we live in a very challenging time in the United States, and I think all over the world, you see, democracies are being challenged, and you see, the work of journalists is under attack. And what I think, you could look at that and you could say, okay, well, clearly we're losing, right? When things are not going well. But I think it also what we as journalists have to do is look at that as a challenge, right? That means our work is not done. That means there is more to do. That means that there is still more work for us to illuminate, for us to illuminate for the public, and to perhaps God willing, help sustain the democracies that we really, obviously, we exist to nurture and to be a part of. As I mentioned, when I was at St. John's, I remember Father Weber and the Jesuits, who educated me and some of the other people, including Jules. One of the great things about the Jesuits and certainly Father Weber was this knowledge that they had this role to nurture a brand new democracy in Belize. And so, to hear this guy from America, from the Midwest, say things, that frankly were incredibly important towards, getting literacy and getting the public to be informed and to help encourage people to have a free press in a brand new democracy. I think those things, I don't think I really understood them until much, much later on. And I still think back on those words because I think they're so much more meaningful today than even when I was a teenager going to St. John's. So again, I want to say thank you to all of you for all of the work that you're doing to help build and sustain Belizean democracy, because every one of those stories, including obviously the story out of San Ignacio, which I was like, oh my gosh, I watched every one of those stories to learn more. Every different episode or package that came from that submission, I found really, really scintillating. And similarly, the story of possible money laundering. That's a huge theme. It's a very important issue for Belize because obviously, if Belize doesn't keep control of the money laundering issue, the banking system gets cut off from the global system, and we've seen that before. The threat happened before, so that's a very, very important story for Belize. And of course, the story of the fisheries and the overexploited natural resources. That's a huge story for Belize and tourism and the economy. So I applaud the journalists who contributed all those pieces, and I want to say that the clouds are pretty dark right now, but that just means we have more work to do to shine a light on what's going on in the world. And I want to thank you again for inviting me, and I hope that I get to see more of this work. I'll keep an eye out for more of these pieces in the coming year. Thank you so much.
And thank you too, Evan. Now it's time to present the winner and finalists.
Sorry to steal the mic. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to show you a clip of each of the three teams that we're honoring tonight, and then we'll present the actual awards. But this is to give you an idea of what the stories were about. And so we'll do that, and then we'll give out the awards.
We'll present them in alphabetical order. Code Red in Belize's Blue by Marco Lopez for a Mandela and Earth Journalism Award. Network, sorry. Belize is renowned for its pristine marine ecosystems. The nation is, however, facing a critical threat to its fisheries, according to the leading minds in fisheries science. A comprehensive study by these international fisheries experts revealed a worrisome reality. 17 commercial fish species are overexploited. This alarming revelation challenges the Belize Fisheries Department, FD, persistent claims of healthy and sustainable fish stocks and raises serious concerns about the future of Belize's blue economy. This story looks at conflicting narratives, the scientific evidence supporting the findings, a dire warning from the scientists who created the stock assessment methodology still used by the FD, and the implications for Belize's marine space and fishing communities.
I'm going to read a remark from one of the judges. This is a damning report showing Belizean authorities' denial of overfishing, despite evidence to the contrary, and the impact of inaction.
We're doing musical mic. The next is Night of Terror at SICH, San Ignacio Community Hospital, how a gang took over Cayo Hospital, by Jules Vasquez, Jo Marie Lanza, Cody Norales, Guido Gonzalez, and Denver Fairweather. 7 News. Clip, please.
On the night of Saturday, June 1st, David Galindo was rushed to the San Ignacio Community Hospital, SICH for short, around midnight. He was rushed through these doors into the emergency room with an escort of violent gang members who threatened doctors, saying they had to treat him immediately and save his life. One of them followed him into the trauma room where he was being treated. This is a recording of one doctor's narration of the event to other medical staff.
And he was refusing to leave, and he was actually on us saying, deal with him right now, deal with him right now, deal with him right now, we don't have to save his life. And we were trying to move around and we couldn't because the guy was there. And when he was leaving, he said he would not better save his life or I don't know, or effing dead.
On the night of Saturday, June 1st, medical staff inside the San Ignacio Community Hospital were threatened and terrorized by gang-affiliated persons who demanded that gang figure David Galindo was treated urgently.
When they came out and they pointed at me and they told me, you better save this body life. If this body dead, all I will know about never.
When the Commissioner of Police and his senior officers, including the regional commander, walked into the San Ignacio Community Hospital at 2:30, they were greeted by Dr. Francis Murray, the Deputy Director for Hospital Services. He was there to meet the staff 10 days after an incident that spread terror through the hospital.
Like I said, I am just made aware of the veracity of this incident when Jules Vasquez brought it up on the beef yesterday morning. Having heard what he said and having listened to the audio that was released from one of the doctors, I saw that it is something serious.
Coming in November, he got shoot. That's something again. It was minor. But the same thing, one of his side man that come in said, no better deal here right now. And then he just come out and said, I'm gonna shoot up this right now, he said.
This was how the door of the emergency room looked after one of David Galindo's gang affiliates punched it in on Saturday, June 1st. There was blood everywhere and doctors had to quickly attend to the man who had just threatened their lives.
And there was one dude that we thought that he punched the wall of the emergency department. And blood was all over the place. We informed our chief of staff. Nobody showed up. We ended up the shift and nobody showed up. Nobody reached out and asked us, were not okay? Anybody was hurt?
When the police came to inspect this broken door that a gang affiliate had punched through, they apparently didn't inquire to find out about the night of terror inside the A&E that led to this.
But can you definitively say that in their report there weren't details of everything else that happened at the police?
I will check on that to see. I will follow up on that, and by tomorrow I'll have a response for you. But
4 days later, Minister Musa still hasn't provided that answer. And that's because police didn't inquire further, and no police report was made by the medical staff because, due to long neglect, that staff has lost trust in authorities.
I wrote this script and I'm still lost. Okay, here's one of the judge said. The journalist did a good presentation of what happened. The investigation focused on the authorities' lack of response, establishing timelines and assigning accountability. It ended with a new protocol being established.
Our next piece is Operations of Caribe Blue Casino by Paul Lopez, Joel Wesby, and George Tillett from News 5. Video, please.
Who exactly are the people behind Caribe Blue Casino, and why did they catch our attention in the first place? To get to the bottom of this, we had to do some digging. According to Mayor Nunes, Caribe Blue Casino was previously known as Moneta until it came under new management earlier this year.
Well, we have copies on our system that you can see how much golf carts are registered under Caribe Blue. And then we can check to see how many they have, and you would be able to see that they only have 20.
Our recent trip to Caribe Blue Casino left us with more questions than answers. We discovered that numerous golf carts were being stored in a neighboring building the casino is developing. Video footage from early October shows golf carts neatly parked on the cramped first floor. However, today the same floor was almost empty, except for a few old gaming machines. A spokesperson for Caribe Blue Casino claimed that no golf carts were ever parked inside the building, but our initial video tells a different story. You can find an unauthorized ATM inside a casino in Belize that spits out US currency. You could skip the application process, dodge a trip to the bank, and fly under the central bank's radar. After weeks of investigation, it turns out that Caribe Blue Casino in San Pedro has been running an unauthorized ATM that dispenses US currency. An undercover operation inside the casino caught the machine in action, spitting out US bills with just a credit card swipe. News 5 has confirmed that this is the first such instance where a casino in the country has been operating an ATM, more so one that dispenses US currency. So how did Caribe Blue Casino manage to pull this off? The short answer, with some seriously sophisticated tech skills. How is it that a casino can operate an ATM undetected for a period of time?
I got a better question. How is it configured?
Yeah. News 5 has confirmed that the ATM machine inside Caribe Blue Casino was connected to a tower in Miami. Through this technology, the machine was able to process a user's banking information and dispense the amount requested from the US currency loaded into the machine. Tonight, the Financial Intelligence Unit, the supervisory authority for casinos in Belize, is weighing in on our findings. We spoke with FIU Director Lenny Isigiri Magan to get their perspective.
The FIU, to protect the integrity of these processes and of our investigations, are under strict confidentiality obligations.
In other words, the FIU cannot share the specifics of its investigations or findings just yet. They'll need to wait until charges are filed or the case goes to court, if it even gets that far.
And this judge said, an interesting series that shows the importance and general curiosity in local reporting. You can guess who this judge was. A story on golf carts led to a story on an illegal ATM, which could well be linked to money laundering and much broader issues about casinos across Belize. I will make a note that a lot of things that journalists in Belize find out you don't know yet because they can't report them because they're not corroborated. And so there's a lot of things that I know now from talking to Paul that he also knows, but needs to corroborate, and so stay tuned. And if you don't watch the news in Belize, you're missing out on some serious drama, right? So now we're going to actually do the thing that you're all here for, which is give out some money. So I will ask Dr. Palacio to please join us again. And I will tell you that we're going to start with the top winner. We're not going to go keep you in suspense. We're going to start with the top winner.
As Holly said, we'll start with our winner, the recipient of the $10,000 cash. Congratulations, Marco Lopez. $10,000. Our first finalist team, News 5, Paul Lopez, Joel Wesley, and George Tillett. They're getting $5,000 each. No, I'm joking. You know, so quickly Holly corrected that. And then our next finalist team, Jules Vasquez, Jo Marie Lanza, Cody Morales, Guido Gonzalez, and Denver Fairweather. At this point, we'd like to invite Marco to make a few remarks.
Evening. I have no prepared remarks, obviously, but first, thank you to the UB Prize, and especially to those who were involved in the story. It started back in 2023, this story. It's not this singular quote within the blue that looks at this topic. It starts with a story that's close to my heart, the ocean and fisher folk, because I come from a long line of fisher folk and people connected to the ocean. Journalists involved with this Freedom of Information Act request, I call them the winners to want to collaborate with me, to decide to say, let's do this together. Andre Habet, Marcel Maya, Dion Vanson, and especially the head of the Belize Federation of Fishers, DL Fairweather. I want to thank you for deciding to join and fight along with me, because it was a fight. Have no doubt. Take no doubt that it was a fight, because I felt the intention of the administration was to directly attack my credibility as a journalist. And in doing that, attack my bread, attack how I sustain myself and my family, you understand? So by all means, we had to bear arms, as my friend, the Dean of the First Corps, Jules, said. We can't capitulate to these people when they attack us, because our work is not about shining, our work is not about being a star, our work is about protecting and safeguarding our nation state, or Belize, And what is more beautiful and sexy than the Belizean blue? Nothing. So that's why I choose to protect that. That's why I choose to fight for or blue, or Belizean blue, I want to thank the Amandala organization, my home. That's where I started from a teenager, Call it zinc bias. But I don't think there's a next organization in this country that allows a black man to come to the knowledge of himself. You understand? That gives him the space, that have the knowledge, the years of knowledge that could allow a young black man to come to the knowledge of himself. So you call it zinc bias, but I don't think there's not another organization like the Amandala and Kremandala, Of course, my introduction to Kremandala was through Heights of Vibes, because who know me know that first I'm a musician, I'm a producer. Broke down Punta, and contemporary Belizean music, that my first and true love. So I come from Heights of Vibes and got introduced to Krem. That's how I even start, and I'm here, just a guitarist and a producer, and I say that because it's with a heavy heart. It's against the very fiber of my being here, because we lay Consigo to rest today. We lay Dion Ocales to rest today, one of the most electrifying and prolific Punta artists in this country. Latter-day Punta rock, where we listen to, it's Consigo music, and we don't know. So what is the value of the artist, of the writer, of the musician, of the poet? What are the value of those who decide to lay out from themselves to society? That's why we have to respect recognition. I don't know if Consigo will ever get recognized like this, but I have to put it on the record that, a giant as well, although I can't leave the rest, make sure your name sung. And in that, of course, the Ella, Heights of Vibes, Father Lee, respect, boom bam, respect. Then there are the people who lay the foundation for a young black man who could accept this award, a very renowned field of journalism. I'm proud to be a journalist, I'm proud to have this mantle. So much respect, much thanks, love.
Marco, I'm nominating you to write Consigo's biography.
I think it's important also to show how creativity and curiosity always intersect, right? That's very important. Thank you for that. With that, we've come to the end of this award night. Thanks to Holly and all the organizers, University of Belize, everybody who worked behind the scenes, Amanda, everybody.
Yeah, especially Amanda. She's standing by the wall there.
Yeah.
So. Everything you see is down to her. And thank you, LED Belize, for making sure everything was so smoothly and tech perfect. Thank you.
So, and thank you all for attending. And
thank you.
Have a good evening, everyone.
If you'd like to come up and take more photos, feel free.